Patrolling the ever-expanding borders of unknown space, we receive a transmission from Admiral Garrett who relays concerns over escalating hostilities with the Tholians, the crystalline non-humanoid species with extreme atmospheric requirements. Tholian Federation relations have never been what you'd call friendly in any timeline, but perhaps this recent incident shouldn't be happening at all.
Things are heating up with the Tholians. Monitor stations are detecting large fleet movements toward Federation space, and they're refusing all of our diplomatic hails. We're doing all we can to prevent a war, but it's not looking good. I want you to join a task force I'm assembling. If this goes south, I want my best people on the front line when it does.
The Federation shouldn't be having significant issues with the Tholians at this point in time. I've been scanning the timeline and I think I've found the problem. 2 years ago, a Tholian colonial fleet was destroyed. The Tholians blamed the Federation, and increasing hostilities have ultimately led us here. This is something I'll need your help to correct.
Our work as a temporal agent seems to be ongoing, so we set a course for the unknown regions of unexplored space.
I've pinpointed the incident in question, setting temporal transponder back 2 years. We need to correct the timeline during the Defiant's encounter with the Tholians.
So we'll be jumping back in time once again to prevent the destruction of a Tholian Colony Fleet. According to Daniel's readings, this destruction never happened, and somehow this alteration has led to increasing hostilities between the Tholians and the Federation, leading to the current status where we're bordering on all-out war. Traversing the sea of space, we pass the oases of planetary solar systems, and like a storm from the gloom, a murky green nebula marks out an unexplored sector. Now we're approaching the right place. It's up to Daniel's future technology to allow us to enter the right time.
We've arrived in 2268, and not a moment too soon. The Nakul are clearly out for blood. Tholians are quite xenophobic. They may feel the Federation is part of the problem.
Well, we've certainly got to convince them otherwise.
We're being hailed by the Defiant. I'll remind you that our orders forbid us from telling them anything specific about the situation. I recommend deflecting their questions until the situation here is resolved.
We've emerged right in the middle of a firefight with many lives at risk. Even as we formulate a plan, several huge Tholian colony vessels are destroyed.
Good to see you. We're in a real tight spot here. The Tholians were taking a serious beating when we reached the system, and the other ships opened fire on us the minute we dropped out of warp. Mind lending us a hand until we figure out what's going on?
The captain of the USS Defiant has no idea he's caught in the middle of a temporal incursion, but we do indeed need to save those Tholians.
This was a Tholian Colony Fleet.
See if you can take a little pressure off. We need to firm up our shields.
We close to combat range, engaging the attacking Nakul frigates with the intention of drawing fire from the Constitution-class Defiant. The frigates themselves don't prove to be too dangerous, but they outnumber us substantially, and the Tholian vessels are all but defenceless. Daniels reminds us of the stakes. There is a Tholian queen aboard, an entire political lineage is in jeopardy. Perhaps this is the reason for the targeting of the Tholians by the Nakul.
Enemy boarding parties are beaming to the Tholian flagship.
As the battle continues, Nakul destroyers punch holes through the reality of space-time and enter the fray, bringing with them reinforcements and boarding parties. Things are kind of escalating. Well, that's one destroyer down. Let's move to reinforce the Defiant as it attempts to aid the Tholian vessels. Constitution-class vessels are hardy machines designed to take a beating. Even the icon of Starfleet is pushed against the Nakul vessels. We see extensive damage to the pylons and numerous burns across the hull, suggesting the loss of shielding at some point during the dogfight.
suppose you have any idea what's going on here? There's nothing on these aliens in our computers or why they'd attack the Tholians, or us for that matter.
Ooh, we have to remember what Daniel said. We cannot risk passing on that we are from the future, and with all the chaos, I haven't had time to create a convincing cover story. We can dismiss Captain Morrison with the reminder of the Nakul borders on the Tholian ships, ask that he assume overwatch for enemy ships while we take out the borders, or simply tell him it's classified. I felt that saying "later, Captain" was a bit too informal. He is a superior officer, and the classified answer always invites further speculation. So I simply asked him to act as guard while we retake the Tholian colony ships.
Alright, do what you need to do. We'll talk about all of this when the shooting stops. Deal?
Yeah, deal.
I know it doesn't feel great keeping information from the Defiant's crew, but believe me, it's for the best. I'll monitor the situation here while you assist the Tholians. Do what you can to save them. Good luck. I've found appropriate transport coordinates on the Tholian flagship. Hopefully you can convince them that we're not at fault here. If the Tholians go to war with the Federation now, it would be devastating on a galactic scale.
Well, keep an eye on things, Daniels. It seems to be what you're best at, and let me know if anything changes. Tarsi then reminds us of the extreme environment that the Tholians call home, an atmosphere that would incinerate us humans, or Andorians or Tellarites for that matter. So we have to suit up in environmental hazard suits to allow us to operate on board the Tholian vessels. The silver suits are the standard 23rd century issue, as can be seen in the TOS episode The Tholian Web. Tholians, EV suits, and the USS Defiant. Why is this all so familiar?
Reading only a few Tholian life signs.
Wow. An orange haze permeates the air, which itself seems to ripple with intense heat. It's literally like an oven in here at 480 Kelvin or 207 degrees C. The Nakul up ahead must be using their own protective gear too. This Nakul has slaughtered several Tholians, so their mission must be the assassination of the Queen. There is nothing we can do to help them. They're already gone. As we fight our way through the chambers and corridors of Tholian design, the Nakul beam in to stop us and assault us with what I think are overwhelming enemy reinforcements. But on closer inspection, they're utilising a form of hollow technology to create false images to confuse and disorientate us in the heat of combat, and yeah, it worked. Inspecting a Tholian ensign. This Tholian went down fighting. Multiple combat injuries have been detected, all from plasma weaponry favoured by Nakul strike teams. The kill shot was fired into his thorax at point-blank range. Wow, the Nakul are literally executing defeated Tholian soldiers. They are truly here to make sure this entire ship and all of the colony vessels are wiped out. While pushing on, I notice an orange lattice around the edges of the hallways and across some floor panelling, similar to the crystalline structure that makes up the bodies of the Tholians. Well, this species can produce their own electromagnetic signals for communication within their crystalline lattice, which leads me to believe that these orange structures may have a similar purpose.
The power levels on the flagship just spiked. Something's wrong, and I doubt the Tholians are to blame.
Perhaps inter-ship communications or a form of interface, as we would use a monitor. Driving the Nakul back, we enter a massive chamber that seems to form some kind of energy source, perhaps the primary warp core, or whatever the Tholian equivalent is. After clearing out the chamber, it becomes apparent that the Nakul have activated a self-destruct on the colony ship, one which we must now prevent. Activating 3 panels around the circumference of the room, we disable the destruction at the central panel.
Energy readings on the flagship are returning to normal. Whatever you did worked!
It's then that I notice that the room is the same layout on all of the walls, even the ceiling, complete with controls and even doors. Does this mean that the Tholians are at home on every surface of the vessel, scurrying from one face to the next, like insects?
We've stopped the ship from detonating, but they're not cool. They've killed Tholian colonists and even hatchlings ruthlessly. What they've done here is an atrocity.
But the Queen is still alive, so our work is not finished. We need to push on. We enter the room with the Tholian Queen and see it is under attack. She seems to be able to create crystalline eruptions, perhaps with technology, perhaps biology, to assault the Nakul. But there are so many of them, and their holotech makes it very difficult to distinguish an appropriate target amidst the crowds. The best tactic is to focus them down one at a time before they get a chance to deploy this holographic trickery. After 4 waves of enemies, which bugged out in my experience and I had to reload, the Queen is saved and we get a chance to speak to her.
Humanoid command, why did you kill your kind? This is irrational. Explain.
We are not of the Nakul, we are from the United Federation of Planets.
Federation, Nakul, all humanoids are the same. Chaotic, irrational, peaceful, then not. Warring, then you leave.
Oi, you prejudiced cherry calipo. I mean, we are not all the same as the Nakul, Majesty, we are not your enemy. No, or perhaps the more diplomatic, to your eyes we're all humanoids, but we are not of the same mind.
Those you call Nakul killed our people, our children, all are dead. Our sisters must know. Leave now, Federation. Leave us to our final task.
Look, what can we do to help? We fought the Nakul, and we've came to save you. We're pretty good in the scrap, honest.
You cannot help us. Too late. The hatchlings slaughtered, the colonists lost. Nothing can help in the face of this terror. We must send our message. Others will come. Leave now.
We've got enemy ships on an intercept course, including a dreadnought. We won't last long against a force like that.
Continue to fight Nakul. Keep them from us while we contact our sisters. If you speak truly, you will not betray us.
Oh, now you want our help. Look, we will not let you down. Or send that message quickly, Majesty. Now let's go with we won't let you down. We return to the Armiger post-haste, beaming out of this fiery fiasco.
I've been monitoring the Tholian Queen's progress. She hasn't been able to send the signal to her people. Orders?
We're gonna buy her time. This message must go out, Daniels.
Okay, let's have a little chat. What's the situation here? Where did those alien ships come from? I'd like some straight answers for a change.
This is not a good time, Morrison. My orders are need to know, and
I don't need to know, right? I read you, but it doesn't mean I have to like it. That big alien ship is still heading our way. Let's focus on that.
sounds like it's already here.
Here they come.
Once again, the Nakul punch through with time vortices, using the Tadari frigates as the vanguards. Phaser and plasma fire streak through the void as we attempt to buy the Tholian Queen enough time to relay a message to her people. They need to know what happened here, and if the Federation was involved in the protection of Tholian ships, it may go some way to undoing the damage the Nakul have done to the timeline.
We just lost our engines. It'll take a while for my chief engineer to work a few miracles. That dreadnought is coming in fast.
The Dreadnought destroyer is by far the biggest threat out here, well, not counting the USS Armiger. In order to reduce the incoming damage, we target the more vulnerable frigates first, but with the Defiant immobilized, it proves to be a bit more of a challenge. The sustained fire from numerous vessels prevents our shields from recharging, and they fail in places more than once, leading to the hull integrity of the Armiger to take a pounding. Engineering teams are dispatched ASAP to prevent catastrophic damage, and we skim through several close calls by the skin of our teeth. The destroyer's shields are down, so a final 2 torpedoes should do the trick.
More ships inbound to our location.
Well, bugger.
The alien dreadnought is concentrating fire on the Tholian flagship.
Oh, that's the dreadnought. Huh. Well, the destroyers were tough enough. I don't think we stand a chance against something even more powerful. But the Queen still hasn't sent her message. Well, despite the damage we've sustained, we need to move in to defend the flagship, but first, these frigates need to go down. They seem to be now ignoring the immobilised Defiant and gunning straight for the Armiger. One down, leaving a destroyer and a frigate left, but the Armiger is taking such a beating. If I can just take out that smaller, faster frigate, I can put some distance between the destroyer and us, allowing the shielding to replenish and the repair crews to work uninterrupted. At least that's the plan. We can't seem to shake it, even with evasive manoeuvres. Shields are mostly restored and hull integrity is as stable as it's gonna get. I guess now is the time to turn and face the destroyer. Yaha! Yes!
Federation, you have proven you are different, rational. This pleases us. We have sent word to our sisters. The Nakul will pay. The Federation will not. Now, vengeance for the slaughter of a generation. Vengeance for our children.
The Queen's message has been sent through subspace and... Yes! The timeline is correcting itself. Good work. Now, we just need to help with... The Queen is going to full impulse. She's gonna ram the Nakul dreadnought!
Our engines are still down. We can't escape.
Well, we made it out of the blast zone, but the Defiant didn't. We should perform a cursory scan to assess the damage. Tenet reports that the life signs are unusual. The ship and everyone aboard appears to be phasing in and out of the local space-time. She theorises that all of the temporal holes being punched into reality by the Nakul, plus to the massive antimatter explosion caused by the colliding ships, have created some sort of temporal interphasic rift, and the Defiant appears to be caught in it. She begins to suggest repair options and a way to rescue the crew, but then Daniels interrupts.
No. I'm afraid that this is their fate. This is one of the hardest things about being a temporal agent. We can only make the changes we have to make, not the ones we want to make.
We can protest, looking for some sort of loophole.
I'm afraid there's not. History states that the Defiant went missing, only to be found here weeks later by the Enterprise. Though they're lost, we now know that they played an important role in keeping the Federation safe, in protecting the timeline. For what it's worth, I will be sure their heroism is included in my report. The Tholians will remember this as well. This encounter may lead them to be more inward-focused, avoiding conflicts with the Federation, for the time being. At the very least, they will know that it wasn't the Federation that was responsible for the destruction of their colony convoy.
That's a cold comfort to the families of over 400 men and women, Daniels.
Captain Archer had similar concerns when I worked. We often disagreed, but in the end, we were able to work past our differences and do the right thing. I hope you and I can do the same. Leaving Defiant to her fate was a hard choice, but it saved untold billions of lives. That has to count for something.
Well, that's it then. The Tholian Queen had lost everything, and her actions to destroy the Nakul were the final strain that created an interphasic rift, one which the Defiant got caught in. This was the ship's fate either way, as in a mirror universe long ago, some Tholians transmitted a distress call to lure in ships from our side. Perhaps it was the Tholian colony vessel who answered first, and then the Nakul ambushed them to make their own changes to history, and the Defiant was just caught in the middle. Whatever originally happened, whatever was supposed to happen, the end result is the same. The Defiant and all aboard her are lost, drifting into a mirror universe, but forever gone from ours. Thanks for watching this part of the Star Trek Online's story series. This is going to be a continuing series on the channel as I work my way through the Agents of Yesterday storyline and hopefully beyond. Thanks for your viewing, and I hope to see you for the next adventure of the USS Armiger and her crew. Oh, and if you're wondering what happens if you take off the environmental suit while on board the Tholian ship, well, this.